Dear Mr. Williams, I hope you are well. I'm Ed Lane, a 25-year-old station manager/broadcaster for Base Communications in Martinsville, Virginia. I have noticed your columns in Radio Inc. and would love to pick your brain for some advice. We work in a market with a population of 54,151 and an unemployment rate of 17%. Still, my other full-time team member and I have managed to generate revenue. We both sell and have a solid client base and put money on the books. We are both very passionate about having an on-air personality, focusing on local content and using our local content and on-air personalities to sell and market our stations. That said, we still run into a number of dilemmas which have hindered our ability to further enhance our station's on-air content and revenue. Number one, we do not have any concrete method of proving how many people listen to our radio station at one time. 2, we are looking for the best methods to gauge our ad impact in a manner where we can tell it works. 3, we have a number of clients who, upon renewal time, claim, quote, "I haven't heard anything directly," end quote, from our customers about the ad, even if they have seen an increase in business. Please let me know what advice you have on how we can answer and work through the issues we've listed above so we can continue to not only help our own stations, but to remain viable and work our way up the radio ladder. Sincerely, Ed Lane.
Ed, I've got some really good news for you. I was your age and in a very similar situation and had the same questions about 30 years ago. You're facing precisely the same problems I faced at your age. Now here's what I learned. There are no concrete methods for determining listenership. The most reliable audience estimates are still just estimates. Even Arbitron's new PPM assumes the electronically tracked sample group is representative of the market as a whole. That being said, if we can determine what percentage of the American population listens to the radio each hour of the day, we can apply those percentages to your population and voila. We'll have as credible a listening estimate as can be offered. We can safely assume the habits of the people in Martinsville, Virginia, your town, are basically the same as other American cities, right? Good news! I typed the search string National Average AQH, standing for Average Quarter Hour Persons, National Average AQH Persons using radio. And the 10th listing on the first page of Google results was a wonderful 118-page PDF download, Radio Today 2011. Now, Sean Taylor has already emailed everybody viewing today a link to that download, and hopefully you've already downloaded it, and you have that PDF downloaded from Arbitron. Now, a glance at the table of contents sent me to page 106, hour-by-hour listening, according to average quarter-hour rating. Now, you have to understand the word rating, when it's used by Arbitron, doesn't mean rank. It doesn't mean who's number 1, who's number 2, who's number 3, who's number 4. Rating means what percentage of the population is listening to the radio right now. And so if a person has a 1.0 rating, that means 1% of all the people who breathe air over the age of 12 are listening. So when you look at the population of the city or the trade area in question, total survey area, and you say what percentage of the people who breathe air are tuned into the radio right now, that's called your rating. Now, hour by hour listening, average quarter hour rating, that's where I found a chart telling me exactly what percentage of the American population listens to the radio each hour of the day. The happy little chart showed 13 to 15% of the people listening to the radio during any given average quarter hour between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. So guess what? Radio, even the most conservative, the most conscientious stations, tend to think of morning drive starting at 6 a.m. But there's a huge, much bigger audience listening after 7 than there is between 6 and 7. There's a stunning number of radio alarm clocks that go off at 7 a.m. Therefore, 6A to 9A, that's a very, very narrow morning drive time. 6A to 10A is actually far more common. And again, afternoon drive, even on a very conservative, conscientious station, they might call it, say, 4P to 7P. Well, as you can see from page 106, the audience drops pretty sharply after 5p. Now, my suspicion is in bigger cities like Los Angeles or Pittsburgh or, the major top 50 cities perhaps, with heavy afternoon traffic, it takes a little longer to get home, and so drive time might actually stretch to 6. But in very few places do I think it's as crowded on the roads at 7. So 6A to 7P, I'm willing to buy it, honestly, but you know what? The real guts of the radio audience is 7A to 5P. Now, nobody's going to sell you that. They're just not. So you're going to have to settle for 6A to 7P. Now, that was a little aside for all the people that are listening that don't sell radio. Remember, those core hours, 7A to 5P. And the fluctuation, it goes up and down between 13 and 15% of the people of North America are not only awake but listening to the radio during those hours. And of course, it's a rolling percentage. It's not the same 13 to 15% all day. It's different people tuning in and out, in and out, in and out. But it doesn't go below 13, it doesn't go above 15%. So it's impossible to really get screwed when you're buying radio between 7A and 5P. Now let's look at the population of Martinsville, the city in question. As you know, radio signals don't stop at the county line. Now our friend Ed Lane knows the population of the county where he broadcasts, but fortunately, I found a government agency called DAWN, D-A-W-N. Why is it important that it's a government agency? Credibility. I told you people want credibility and they want relevance. Credibility. It's government numbers. They have no reason to mislead people that are buying advertising. So, DAWN is an agency that helps communities and member facilities identify emerging problems, improve patient care, and manage resources. And they list the 2008 Metropolitan Survey Area of Martinsville, drum roll please, at 69,859 people. Now that is 27% more people than our good Ed Lane believed that were listening in the trade area, that were living in the trade area. So yeah, according to a government agency, the Martinsville actually has in that trade area 69,859 people, 27% bigger audience. Now, based upon national listening patterns, 13 to 15% of the population, 7A to 5P, and a very specific government declaration of population, we now know that somewhere between 9,081 and 10,479 persons will be listening to the radio in Martinsville during the average quarter hour between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. What am I teaching you people? I'm teaching you how to be resourceful when the information you're looking for isn't readily apparent. It can always be conjectured together with credibility if you just use your head. Now, finding these numbers took me all of 6 minutes. The Martinsville trade area and the average quarter hour average for radio in North America, 13% to 15%. Now, Ed, all you have to do is name the listenable signals in your trade area. You just say to your prospective client, there's KXYZ, there's KABC, there's KNPR, there's KME, and there's K that guy over there. Now, knowing what you do about our station and these other stations, what percentage of radio listeners do you suspect might be listening to my station at any given time? Just of the people that are listening to the radio, what percentage do you think maybe is listening to me instead of those guys? Now, Ed, if the prospect hates you and wants you to go away, he'll name a tiny number. Don't let it bother you. You were never going to make that sale anyway. Get over it. Not everybody can be sold, but if the prospect names a reasonable percentage, now, again, seat of my pants. The same pants that said 15% of America is stupid, mouth-breathingly stupid, bone-breakingly stupid, cross-eyed stupid. It's a guess. If the prospect names a reasonable percentage and the same seat of the pants says, what's reasonable? Anything from 7% to 30%. Small town like Martinsville, it's only going to have a relatively small number of radio stations. There's no way you're doing so bad that you've got fewer than 7% of the radio audience tuned to you at any given time. Heck, there's probably only 5 stations in town. And there's no way you're going to have more than 30. It's not going to happen. So anything between 7% and 30% seems reasonable to me. Now, you take those, whatever number, your prospect names, if he picks a number, just whatever number he or she picks, apply it to what we figured out earlier. 13% of your population is 9,081 people. So apply the percent to that. And then that's the low number. And then 10,479 is the 15% of your population number we came up with, and you'll have as concrete of a number as can possibly be offered. Now, you can show your prospect where you got your data, and if your prospect says, well, I think maybe about 10% of the listeners at any given time are listening to your station, about 10%. That would mean, Ed, by his own estimate, your station has between 908 listeners and 1,048 listeners during the average commercial break. We know the percentage that are listening at any given time in the nation, 13 to 15% during the day. We now know the population of your total trade area. If he names what percentage of those listeners are listening to you as opposed to somebody else, if he says 10%, you have between 908 listeners and 1,048 listeners, and that is as accurate as anything Arbitron has ever published. Just trust me on that. Run with it, Ed. There's always a way. There's always a way to come up with credible numbers. Just use your head. Don't just sit there and whine about it, for God's sake.